The sensor alarm woke Junior Technician Voss from his half-sleep at the monitoring station. His 4 eyes snapped open as the display flashed red. For a moment he thought it was a malfunction. Nothing ever happened on Border Watch. The Valorian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 cycles. Every star, every planet, every species was catalogued and controlled. But the sensor didn't lie. Voss touched the communication panel with his primary hand, while his secondary hands brought up the detailed readings. Station Commander, this is Monitoring Post 7-4. I have an unidentified contact at Sector 99 Beta. The commander's voice came through tired and annoyed. Run it through the database. Already did, sir. No match. There was a pause. A long one. That's not possible. Run it again. Voss's hands moved across the controls. The massive Valorian database contained every ship design from every species in the Empire. 10,000 star systems, 800 billion citizens, 56 different spacefaring races, all conquered and integrated over millennia. Every single vessel type was recorded. The computer came back with the same result. No match found. Commander, database confirms negative match. The vessel signature is completely unknown. I'm coming down there. Station Commander Pelthar arrived within minutes, his ceremonial armor clanking as he hurried into the monitoring room. He was old, a veteran of the last border skirmish 60 cycles ago. His scales had dulled with age, but his eyes were sharp as he stared at the display. Show me everything. Voss brought up the full sensor suite. The vessel was small, perhaps a quarter the size of a standard Imperial patrol ship. Its hull composition didn't match anything in the database. The energy readings were wrong too. The propulsion system emitted a signature that made no sense according to known physics. Distance? Pelthar asked. 4 light hours from the border, sir, moving at 0.7 standard velocity. Pelthar watched the readings for several moments. His tail twitched, a sign of deep concern among his species. That course. It's heading straight for Threshold Station. Threshold Station was the gateway to the Inner Empire. Millions of ships passed through its hyperspace junction every day. If this unknown vessel reached it, it would be in the heart of Valorian space. Send immediate alert to Fleet Command, Priority Alpha, and dispatch Border Patrol Group 9 for intercept. Voss's hands trembled slightly as he sent the messages. Priority Alpha hadn't been used in his lifetime. It meant potential threat to the Empire itself. Within the hour, Fleet Admiral Kethrax received the report aboard his flagship in orbit around the capital world. He stood before the holographic display in his command chamber, studying the data with growing unease. Kethrax had commanded the Imperial fleet for 20 cycles. He had fought pirates, suppressed rebellions, and maintained order across a quarter of the galaxy. He had never seen anything like this. Tactical analysis, he ordered. His chief tactical officer, a young female named Silvara, manipulated the hologram. The vessel is small, Admiral. Its weapons capability appears minimal, but its propulsion technology is advanced beyond our understanding. How advanced? The energy efficiency violates our theoretical models. By our calculations, a vessel that size shouldn't be able to sustain that velocity for more than a few hours. It's been maintaining speed for 18 hours now with no sign of power depletion. Kethrax's secondary hearts beat faster. In all his years, he had never encountered technology superior to the Valorian Empire's. The Empire had conquered every species it met. It stood alone at the peak of galactic civilization. Could it be a probe? He asked. An automated survey vessel from beyond our borders? Unknown, sir. We've sent 347 hailing signals across all known communication frequencies. No response. The Admiral's claws drummed against his armrest. Time until Border Patrol intercepts? 11 hours at maximum speed. Order them to maintain defensive formation. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless fired upon. I want that vessel captured intact if possible. Yes, Admiral. Kethrax turned to his science advisor, an elderly scholar named Velmara. She had served 3 fleet admirals before him, and her knowledge was vast. Your assessment? Velmara's feathers ruffled with thought. I have consulted the historical archives, Admiral. There have been 3 instances in Imperial history where unknown vessels were detected. All 3 were eventually identified as lost colony ships from known species. This is different. How so? Those vessels were primitive. Sublight technology. Desperate refugees seeking new homes. This vessel is sophisticated. It uses propulsion technology we cannot explain. And most concerning of all, she paused. It appeared exactly at the edge of our sensor range, as if it knew where that range ended. The implication hung in the air. This wasn't a random encounter. Someone had been studying the Empire's borders. Could it be a species we haven't encountered yet? Silvara asked. The Empire spans 50,000 light-years, Velmara said quietly. We have explored every region within that sphere. There are no unknown spacefaring species. There cannot be. But there was, and it was heading straight for the heart of the Empire. Border Patrol Group 9 consisted of 12 warships, each bristling with weapons. Captain Rethmal commanded the lead vessel. He had served in the fleet for 35 cycles and had never seen combat. Border Patrol was usually boring duty, escorting merchant ships and checking identification codes. Now his sensor screen showed something impossible. Captain, the vessel has detected our approach, his sensor officer reported. Is it slowing? No, sir. It's turning. The unknown vessel changed course with impossible precision. No vessel that small should be able to maneuver so quickly. It took the patrol ship several minutes to adjust their formation. All ships match its trajectory. Prepare tractor beams. The patrol group moved to surround the vessel, 12 ships against 1. The tractor beams activated. Invisible fields of force designed to grab and hold any ship. The vessel simply moved through them. Tractor beams have no effect, Captain, the tactical officer shouted. The hull is rejecting the force field somehow. Fire warning shots across its path. Pulse cannons fired bright streaks of energy that lit up the darkness of space. They passed ahead of the vessel, a clear message to stop. The vessel didn't slow. Instead, it accelerated. Sir, it's moving at 2.5 standard velocity now. That's not possible. Our ships can't match that speed. Rethmal watched helplessly as the unknown vessel pulled away from his entire patrol group. Within minutes, it was out of range. Fleet Command, this is Border Patrol 9. Target has evaded interception. Pursuing, but we cannot match its velocity. The response came from Admiral Kethrax himself. Understood, Captain. Maintain pursuit. I'm dispatching the 7th Fleet to establish a blockade at Threshold Station. Rethmal looked at his display. The vessel was a small dot now, pulling further away with every second. Whoever was piloting that ship had technology the Empire couldn't match, and they were heading straight for the most important station in Imperial space. Back on the flagship, Admiral Kethrax stood before the High Council's holographic projection. The 7 council members looked down at him from their towering images, their faces grave. Admiral, explain how a single unknown vessel has penetrated our borders and evaded our patrol ships, Council Leader Mordax demanded. The vessel possesses technology superior to our own, Counselor. Its propulsion system alone exceeds our theoretical capabilities by a factor of 3. That is impossible. The Valorian Empire is the pinnacle of galactic civilization. Yes, Counselor, that is what we believed. The council members looked at each other. 3,000 cycles of unchallenged dominance had made them comfortable. Now that comfort was cracking. What do you recommend, Admiral? Another counselor asked. Kethrax took a breath. We prepare for first contact with a species that may be our equal. Or our superior. The words felt like poison in his mouth, but they were true. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the small vessel continued its journey, silent and unstoppable. And inside it, 3 humans sat calmly, watching the Empire scramble to respond to something they had never imagined. A visitor from outside their carefully controlled galaxy. The emergency session of the High Council had been going for 6 hours. Admiral Kethrax stood at the center of the circular chamber, while holographic displays showed the vessel's progress through Imperial space. The 7 council members sat on elevated platforms around him, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of the data feeds. It has ignored every attempt at communication, Kethrax reported. We have tried all known languages, all known mathematical sequences. Even basic light pattern signals, nothing. Council Leader Mordax leaned forward. His aged face was tight with frustration. And our attempts to intercept? Failed. The vessel is simply too fast. It evades our ships with minimal course corrections and... Kethrax hesitated. It appears to be scanning our facilities as it passes. Scanning. Our shields should prevent that. They don't work against whatever technology this vessel uses. 3 hours ago, it passed within sensor range of Defense Platform 72. Our records show the vessel's scanning beam penetrated 6 levels of military-grade shielding. A murmur went through the council. Defense Platform 72 housed classified weapons research. If this unknown vessel could see through their best defenses, then nowhere in the Empire was truly secure. Councillor Velthara spoke up. She was the youngest council member, only 80 cycles old. Perhaps we are approaching this wrong. We assume hostile intent, but the vessel has not fired any weapons. It has not attacked any of our ships. What if it is simply exploring? Exploring our military installations? Another councillor scoffed. That is an act of war. Only if they understand our protocols, Velthara countered. We know nothing about this species. Perhaps they see no difference between scanning a military base and scanning a star. To them, it might all be data. Kethrax considered this. It was true that the vessel had taken no aggressive action, but its casual violation of Imperial space and its dismissal of their patrol ships suggested either incredible confidence or complete ignorance of who they were dealing with. Neither possibility was comforting, Admiral. What is the vessel's current heading? Mordax asked. Kethrax pulled up the projection. It changed course 2 hours ago. It's now moving toward Threshold Gate. The chamber fell silent. Threshold Gate was the single most important location in the Inner Empire. It was a massive hyperspace junction, a natural phenomenon that allowed ships to jump between distant parts of Imperial space in hours rather than weeks. 15 billion people lived in the systems connected to that gate. 70% of Imperial trade flowed through it. If that vessel reached the gate, it would have access to the heart of the Empire. Assemble the 7th Fleet at the gate, Mordax ordered. 300 ships, Dreadnought-class vessels. We will present a show of force that cannot be ignored. And if it ignores it anyway? Velthara asked quietly. No one had an answer. In the science division aboard the flagship, Velmara studied the sensor data with growing fascination. She had been a scientist for 60 cycles, specializing in xenotechnology. She had examined the ships and tools of 56 different species. She had never seen anything like this. The hull material is impossible, she muttered to herself. Her assistant, a young technician named Paul, looked up from his console. Impossible how, Director? It absorbs sensor beams. All of them. Active scans, passive radiation detection, even basic light reflection. We can only see the vessel because it wants us to see it, otherwise... She gestured at the screen. Otherwise it would be invisible. A cloaking device? No. Cloaking devices work by bending light around an object. This is different. This material actually absorbs the energy. It shouldn't exist. The thermodynamics alone would require... She trailed off, her mind racing through calculations. Paul waited. He had learned not to interrupt when Velmara was thinking. The energy absorption alone would generate enough heat to melt any known material, she finally said, but their hull temperature reads as normal. They've solved a problem that our best scientists say cannot be solved. What does that mean, Director? Velmara looked at the young technician. It means we are dealing with a species that is either far more advanced than us, or far more reckless. Possibly both. Across the Empire, news of the unknown vessel had leaked to the public. On the capital world, crowds gathered around information displays. The official statements from the government were calm and measured, but people could sense the underlying tension. In the universities, professors debated what the vessel might be. In the military academies, young officers argued about proper response protocols. In the merchant districts, traders worried about disruption to commerce. The Valorian Empire had not faced a true external challenge in 1,000 cycles. The younger generations had grown up believing imperial superiority was a natural law of the universe. Now that certainty was crumbling. On the bridge of a merchant vessel near Threshold Gate, Captain Tilmora watched as warships assembled. She had been hauling cargo through this gate for 20 cycles. She had never seen more than a dozen patrol ships at once. Now there were hundreds. Dreadnoughts hung in space like sleeping giants, their weapons arrays ready. Cruisers and destroyers filled the gaps between them. Fighter wings patrolled in complex patterns. The entire 7th Fleet had formed a wall of military might around the gate. That's beautiful and terrifying at the same time, her co-pilot said. Tilmora nodded. The fleet represented 300 years of military development. The ships carried weapons that could destroy planets. Their shields could withstand sustained bombardment from entire fleets. She hoped it would be enough. The unknown vessel arrived at Threshold Gate exactly 48 hours after it had been first detected. It came out of faster-than-light travel at the precise edge of the fleet's sensor range. On the flagship's bridge, alarm sounded. Admiral Kethrak strode to the command platform, his full dress armor gleaming under the lights. This was the moment that would define his legacy. All ships to battle stations. Weapons hot but do not fire. Hailing frequencies open on all bands. The communications officer worked frantically.
Sir, transmitting message now.
All languages, all frequencies. The message was simple. Unknown vessel, you have entered Valorian Empire space. Identify yourself immediately or be fired upon. The vessel moved forward. Slowly, carefully, it advanced toward the assembled fleet. It was tiny compared to the dreadnoughts that surrounded it. A single fighter could destroy something that small. But everyone on every ship knew that size meant nothing with this vessel. Sir, no response to hails. The communications officer reported. Distance? Entering weapons range in 30 seconds. Kethrax felt his heart's pounding. 300 ships. The finest vessels in the fleet. Thousands of crew members waiting for his order. All ships target locked. On my mark. The vessel stopped. It simply stopped moving, hovering in space exactly 100,000 kilometers from the nearest Imperial ship. The distance was precise, calculated. It was well within weapons range, but far enough to give time for communication. Sir, the vessel has stopped, the tactical officer announced unnecessarily. Everyone could see it on their displays. Hold fire. Continue hailing attempts. For 10 minutes, the two forces faced each other. 300 Imperial warships and one small unknown vessel. The tension on every bridge was almost unbearable. Then the vessel did something no one expected. It transmitted. Admiral, we're receiving a signal from the vessel. Put it through. But it wasn't a voice transmission. It wasn't even a standard data packet. The vessel had hacked directly into the fleet's communication network and was projecting an image into every ship's display. The image was simple, mathematical, a sequence of prime numbers, then a series of atomic structures, then star charts showing local space from a perspective outside the Empire. Velmara's voice came through on Kethrax's private channel. Admiral, they're speaking to us. I can see that, Director. No, you don't understand. They're using our own database against us. They're showing us they understand our mathematics, our science, our language structure. This is first contact protocol. The transmission changed. Now it showed a three-dimensional map of the Empire's borders. Then it zoomed out, showing the entire galaxy. A small red dot appeared far from Imperial space in a region the Empire had marked as unexplored. Then a line traced from that red dot to the vessel's current position. The journey it had taken. They're telling us where they came from, Velmara said. That region is 15,000 light-years from our nearest border. They crossed that distance to reach us. Kethrak stared at the map. 15,000 light-years. It would take Imperial ships decades to cross that distance. This vessel had done it in... how long? The transmission changed again. This time it showed something that made Kethrax's blood run cold. It was a recording, a visual record, and it showed scenes from inside Imperial space. Military installations, government buildings, research stations, places that should have been secure, hidden, protected. The vessel had been watching them for weeks. They've been studying us, Silvara whispered, learning about us, and we never knew they were there. The transmission ended. The vessel simply hung in space waiting. Kethrax realized that everything had changed. This wasn't an invasion. It wasn't a threat in the traditional sense. This was something far more complex. The boarding shuttle carried 12 beings. Admiral Kethrak sat in the command seat, flanked by his best security troops. Velmara sat across from him, her scientific equipment clutched in her primary hands. Her feathers were ruffled with nervous energy. This is unprecedented. Admiral, she said for the 4th time. Everything about this situation is unprecedented. Director. Through the shuttle's viewport, the unknown vessel grew larger. Up close, it looked even stranger. The hull had a strange quality, almost organic in how it curved and flowed. No seams were visible, no obvious weapons or engines. It was like looking at a sculpture rather than a ship. Sir, the vessel's airlock is opening, the pilot reported. Kethrax felt his secondary hearts skip. The vessel was inviting them in. The shuttle docked with a soft clang. The security team moved first, weapons ready. Kethrax followed, with Velmara close behind. The interior of the vessel was wrong. The corridors were too narrow for comfortable movement. The lighting was dim by Valorian standards, shifted toward the red end of the spectrum. And there was something about the geometry that made Kethrax's eyes hurt. The walls seemed to curve in ways that didn't match the exterior dimensions. "This is impossible architecture," Velmara whispered. "The interior space is larger than the exterior volume." "Director, that violates basic physics." "I know. But look at your scanner. We've walked 50 meters, but the exterior hull is only 30 meters long." The security team leader, Commander Zeth, held up his hand. "Sir, movement ahead." 3 signatures. "They're waiting for us." The corridor opened into a chamber, and there, standing calmly in the center, were 3 beings unlike any Kethrax had ever seen. They were bipedal, but that was where the similarity to known species ended. They had only 2 arms, 2 legs, a single head with 2 forward-facing eyes. Their skin was smooth and varied in color, one dark brown, one pale pink, one somewhere in between. They wore simple clothing in blue and gray, but what struck Kethrax most was their posture. They stood relaxed, almost casual. No defensive stance, no visible weapons. They looked at the heavily armed Valorian security team with what could only be described as curiosity. One of them, the female with brown skin, stepped forward. She raised one hand, palm out, in what Kethrax recognized as a universal gesture of peace. Then she spoke. In perfect Valorian, "Welcome aboard the CSS Wanderer. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Exploration Corps. These are my crew members, Dr. James Okonkwo and Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka. We've been hoping to meet you." The Valorian stood in stunned silence. The being, the human, had spoken their language flawlessly. Every tonal inflection was correct. Every grammatical structure was perfect. "How?" Kethrax began. "We've been listening to your communication broadcasts for the past 72 hours, Captain Chen said. She smiled, showing white teeth. "Your language is quite logical once you understand the underlying structure. We had AI assistance, of course, but the basics were straightforward." Velmara stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. "You learned our language in 3 days?" "Approximately," the human called Dr. Okonkwo said. He was tall, with dark skin and kind eyes. "We've had practice with rapid language acquisition. When you travel as far as we do, you develop efficient methods." Lieutenant Tanaka, shorter with straight black hair, gestured to seats that rose smoothly from the floor. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Kethrax's security team looked uncertain, but he nodded. They sat, though the chairs were sized wrong for Valorian physiology. The humans remained standing, which put them at eye level with the seated admiral. Smart, Kethrax thought. They understand power dynamics. "You have questions," Captain Chen said. "It wasn't a question." "Many," Kethrax replied, "starting with who you are and what you want." "Fair enough." Chen touched a panel and a holographic display appeared. It showed a small yellow star. "This is Seoul, our home system, approximately 15,000 light-years from here. We detected your subspace broadcast about 50 standard cycles ago." "50 cycles?" Velmara interjected. "But that's—" "Yes, we've been aware of you for quite some time. We spent 40 cycles building ships capable of reaching you. Then we spent another 10 cycles observing your empire from a distance." Kethrax felt cold. "Observing?" Dr. Okonkwo brought up another image. It showed the interior of the High Council chamber. Kethrax recognized it immediately. It was from yesterday's emergency session. "We apologize for the intrusion," Okonkwo said, though he didn't sound very apologetic. "But we needed to understand your society before making contact. Your military capabilities, your political structure, your technological level. You spied on us," Commander Zeth growled, his hand moving toward his weapon. "We gathered intelligence," Chen corrected gently, "just as you would have done in our position." Surely the Valorian Empire scouts new territories before making contact. She had him there. The Empire always sent scout ships first, always gathered information before revealing themselves to new species. "But we do it from a position of strength," Kethrax said. "We survey primitive species before uplifting them." "And we surveyed you before introducing ourselves," Chen replied. "The difference is perspective, Admiral. You see yourselves as the pinnacle of galactic civilization. From our viewpoint, you're our neighbors, potentially friends, hopefully not enemies." Velmara's hands worked frantically on her equipment. Your propulsion system. How does it work? Lieutenant Tanaka smiled. We call it an Alcubierre quantum drive. It manipulates space-time to create a bubble around the ship. Inside the bubble, we're not actually moving faster than light. Space itself is moving around us. That's theoretical impossibility, Vellamara protested. The energy requirements would be astronomical. And the gravitational effects would tear your ship apart. It was impossible, Okonkwo agreed. For a long time. We lost 14 test ships and 37 crew members figuring it out. Trial and error, mostly. Very expensive error. The casual way he said it made Kethrax's skin crawl. They had killed 37 of their own people, testing a technology that should be impossible. And they called it trial and error. Why? Kethrax asked. Why take such risks? Chen looked at him with those strange two-pupiled eyes. Because the alternative is staying home. Because the universe is vast and we want to see it. Because we're human, and humans don't stay in one place for very long. But you achieved interstellar flight only recently, Velmara said, studying her scanner data. Your ship's construction techniques suggest you've had this technology for less than 100 cycles. 73 cycles since our first successful FTL flight, Tanaka confirmed. We've come far in that time. The Valorian Empire took 3,000 cycles to build our civilization, Kethrax said slowly. You're telling me you went from first contact with faster-than-light travel to building ships that can cross the galaxy in less than 100 cycles? Yes, Chen said simply. How many of you are there? Velmara asked. Her voice was quiet, almost fearful. Okonkwo glanced at Chen. She nodded. In this ship? 3. In the Human Exploration Corps? About 50,000. Total human population across all our colony worlds? Approximately 12 billion. 12 billion. The Valorian Empire had 800 billion citizens across 10,000 systems. But they had built that empire over millennia. These humans had gone from a single world to 70 colonies in less than a century. Admiral, Chen said, her tone becoming more serious. We didn't come here to threaten you. We came because we believe in making contact, in building relationships, in learning from other species. Your empire is vast and ancient. We respect that. But you should know, she paused. You should know that we're not the only human exploration vessel out here. There are 17 others, heading to different parts of the galaxy. Some of them will encounter other civilizations, other empires. This galaxy is large enough for all of us. Kethrax understood the message beneath the words. The humans were expanding, not through conquest like the Empire had done, but through exploration and colonization, and they were doing it at a speed that made imperial expansion look glacial. What do you want from us? He asked. Cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, trade perhaps if our economies are compatible, and most importantly, Chen smiled again. We'd like you to visit Earth, our homeworld. See where we come from, understand who we are. We've learned about you. Now let us show you who we are. She touched the panel again. A string of coordinates appeared. These are the navigation coordinates for Sol system. Bring ambassadors. Bring scientists. Bring whoever you think should see what humanity is building. We promise you safe passage. Kethrax looked at the coordinates. They represented a journey of months even with Imperial FTL technology. A journey into the unknown, to meet a species that had casually bypassed all of the Empire's defenses. Commander Zeth leaned close. Sir, this could be a trap. It could be, Kethrax agreed quietly. Then louder to the humans. And if we refuse your invitation? Chen's expression didn't change. Then we'll be disappointed. But we'll respect your decision. We're explorers, Admiral, not conquerors. If the Valorian Empire wishes to isolate itself, that's your choice. But other humans will keep exploring, Tanaka added. Keep expanding. Keep meeting new species, with or without Valorian involvement. The High Council chamber had never been so divided. Admiral Kethrax stood in the center, having delivered his full report on the encounter with the humans. Now the 7 council members argued among themselves, their voices echoing off the ancient stone walls. This is an existential threat to the Empire, Council Leader Mordax shouted. He had abandoned all pretense of calm leadership. A species that can cross 15,000 light-years in less than a century? That can infiltrate our most secure facilities undetected? We must act now, before they become unstoppable. Act how? Councilor Velthara countered. Destroy their ship? They've already told us there are 17 other vessels exploring the galaxy. We would only prove ourselves hostile. Then we find their homeworld and neutralize the threat at its source, General Cormac said. He was the military liaison to the Council, a scarred veteran of countless campaigns, a preemptive strike while they're still vulnerable. Velmara, attending the Council as scientific advisor, stepped forward. With respect, General, they may not be vulnerable. We know nothing about their defensive capabilities, and if we attack, we turn a potential ally into a definite enemy. Ally? Mordax laughed bitterly. They are predators, Director. Advanced predators who smile while they study our weaknesses. In 3 generations, they will have more worlds than we do. In 5, they will surpass us entirely. Only if we stand still, Velthara said quietly. When was the last time the Empire innovated? When was the last time we took a risk on new technology? We've been ruling the same systems, using the same ships, following the same protocols for 1,000 cycles. We've become stagnant. We've become stable, Cormac corrected. The Empire has perfected governance. We don't need innovation. We need order. The argument continued for hours. Admiral Kethrax listened, understanding that the Empire was fracturing before his eyes. The Council had split into 2 clear factions. Those who saw the humans as a threat to be eliminated, and those who saw them as a mirror reflecting the Empire's own stagnation. Finally, Councillor Velthara addressed Kethrax directly. Admiral, you spoke with these humans face to face. What is your assessment? Kethrax chose his words carefully. They are not like any species we have encountered. They are confident without being arrogant, advanced without being condescending, and he paused. They genuinely seem interested in peaceful contact. But make no mistake, they are expanding rapidly. They will fill the galaxy whether we engage with them or not. Then we have no choice, Mordax said grimly. We must prepare for war. Or, Velthara said, we accept their invitation. Send a delegation to their homeworld. Learn from them as they learned from us. The Admiral is correct. They will expand regardless. Better to be their friends than their enemies. The Council voted. 3 for war, 3 for peace. Mordax held the deciding vote. The old Council leader sat in silence for a long moment, his face troubled. Finally, he spoke. Admiral Kethrax, you will lead a diplomatic mission to the human homeworld. Take whatever ships and personnel you deem necessary. Learn everything you can about these humans, their technology, their society, their weaknesses, and when you return, we will make our final decision. It wasn't peace, but it wasn't war. It was a delay, a chance to gather information. Kethrax nodded his acceptance. However, Mordax continued, his voice hard, General Cormac will begin preparations for military action. If your mission fails or if you discover the humans are indeed a threat, the Empire will be ready. Kethrax understood. He was being sent to determine whether humanity would be a friend or a target. 3 weeks later, a small fleet of 5 Imperial ships arrived at the coordinates the humans had provided. Admiral Kethrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the yellow star ahead. Sol, the human homeworld, orbited that star. Sir, we're being hailed. The communications officer reported. It's in Valorian. Put it through. A human face appeared on the screen, male, young, with brown skin and a warm smile. Welcome to Sol System, Admiral Kethrax. This is Sol Traffic Control. We've been expecting you. Please maintain your current heading. An escort will meet you shortly. The screen went dark. Velmara, who had insisted on joining the mission, looked at Kethrax with wide eyes. They have traffic control for their entire star system. How much ship movement do they have? They got their answer soon enough. As the Imperial fleet moved deeper into the system, their sensors picked up thousands of signals. Ships, stations, habitats. The system was alive with activity. Director, I'm reading over 10,000 distinct vessels in this system alone, the sensor officer reported. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining ships, research vessels, and military craft. How many military vessels? Kethrax asked. At least 500 in immediate range, possibly more beyond sensor range. 500 warships in a single star system. And this was just their homeworld. They had mentioned 70 colony worlds. The escort arrived. 3 sleek human warships that dwarfed the Imperial vessels. They moved with the same impossible grace as the exploration ship, guiding the Imperial fleet toward a large orbital station. Admiral, that station... Velmara's voice was odd. It's rotating to generate artificial gravity. But the scale... It must house millions of people. Through the viewport, Kethrax could see Earth, A blue and green world covered in oceans and continents. Clouds swirled in white patterns. Light sparkled across the night side, showing massive cities, home to 12 billion humans. The station docking procedure was smooth and professional. When Kethrax and his delegation disembarked, they were met by Captain Chen and a group of human officials. "Admiral, welcome to Unity Station," Chen gestured broadly. "If you'll follow me, we've prepared accommodations for you and your crew. Tomorrow we'll take you down to Earth itself." As they walked through the station, Kethrax couldn't help but notice the controlled chaos around them. Humans moved with purpose, but without the rigid hierarchy he expected. A young human in work clothes bumped into what appeared to be a senior officer. Instead of punishment, both apologized quickly and continued on. "Your society is informal," Velmara observed. Chen laughed. "We have structure, but we prefer flexibility. Rigid hierarchies can slow down innovation. We found that diverse perspectives and open communication lead to better solutions." They passed a viewing window. Below, Kethrax could see dozens of ships in various stages of construction. "Your shipyards," he said. "One of 12 in this system alone," Chen confirmed. "We build approximately 50 new vessels every standard cycle. Exploration ships mostly, but also colony transports and defense platforms. 50 ships per cycle. The Empire built perhaps 20 across all its shipyards." Over the next week, Kethrax and his team were given unprecedented access to human society. They visited Earth's surface, seeing massive cities where millions lived in apparent harmony. They toured research facilities where humans experimented with technologies the Empire had deemed too dangerous. They observed schools where young humans learned not just facts, but how to question, how to challenge, how to innovate. What disturbed Kethrax most was the chaos. Human society had dozens of governments, hundreds of corporations competing for resources, thousands of independent research groups pursuing different goals. There was argument, debate, even conflict, but somehow it worked. "I don't understand," he confessed to Dr. Okonkwo during a tour of a university. "Your society is fractured. Everyone pursuing their own goals. How do you maintain order?" Okonkwo smiled. "We don't maintain order the way you do, Admiral. We maintain balance. Yes, we compete. Yes, we argue. But competition drives innovation. Argument leads to better solutions. Our chaos is controlled chaos. It pushes us forward. But at what cost? We've seen your memorial walls. Thousands of names. People who died in experimental accidents, failed colonies, exploration disasters." "Yes," Okonkwo said softly. "We remember them. Every single one. They took risks so that humanity could grow. We honor their sacrifice by continuing to push boundaries." Kethrax thought of the 37 crew members who died testing FTL drives. The Empire would have stopped after the first failure, deemed it too dangerous. But humans had continued, learning from each disaster until they succeeded. On his last day on Earth, Kethrax met with the Human Diplomatic Council. Unlike the Imperial High Council, this group was elected from different nations and rotated regularly. They were young, energetic, argumentative. "Admiral," one of them said, "we hope this visit has shown you that humanity means the Valorian Empire no harm. We want to be neighbors, partners, friends. We want to learn from your long history," another added. 3,000 cycles of governance. You must have wisdom we lack. And perhaps we can share our more recent innovations in return." It was a diplomatic way of saying, "You're old and wise, we're young and fast. Let's help each other." "What happens if the Empire refuses cooperation?" Kethrax asked. The council members looked at each other. Finally one spoke. "Then we'll respect your boundaries. We won't enter Imperial space without permission." "But Admiral, we won't stop expanding." "There are 400 billion stars in this galaxy. Plenty of room for both of our civilizations. We just prefer to explore together, rather than separately." That night, Kethrax stood on a balcony overlooking Earth's largest city. Admiral Kethrax's fleet returned to Imperial space to find it on the brink of civil war. The war faction, led by General Cormac, had spent the weeks gathering support. Nearly half the Imperial fleet had declared loyalty to their cause. They believed the humans must be destroyed before they became unstoppable. The peace faction, smaller but vocal, wanted cooperation and cultural exchange. They saw the humans as an opportunity, not a threat. Kethrax's report to the High Council was scheduled for the following day. But that night, everything changed. The attack came without warning. 12 Imperial warships, all loyal to Cormac, broke formation and jumped to hyperspace. Their destination, Sol system. Their mission: destroy the human homeworld before the Council could vote for peace. Kethrax was awakened by emergency alarms. He rushed to the command center to find chaos. Councillor Velthera was already there, her face pale. "They've gone rogue," she said. "Cormac sent them 2 hours ago. They'll reach Sol in 6 hours. Contact the humans. Warn them." "We're trying, but, Admiral," the communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from Sol system. It's Captain Chen." Chen's face appeared on screen. She looked calm, but Kethrax could see the tension in her eyes. "Admiral, we've detected 12 Imperial warships approaching our system at attack velocity. Is this an official act of war? Or do you have ships acting without authorization?" "Captain, those ships are rogue elements. They do not represent the Empire's official position. I am working to recall them." "Understood, Admiral. You should know that we've been monitoring Imperial communications. We're aware of your internal political situation. We know about the war faction." Of course they did. The humans had been intercepting Imperial transmissions from the beginning. "Captain, my fleet will pursue the attackers. We'll do everything we can to stop them before they reach you." Chen smiled slightly. "We appreciate that, Admiral. But you should also know, we're not defenseless. The transmission ended." Kethrax ordered his flagship and 20 loyal vessels to pursue at maximum speed. But even as they raced toward Sol, he knew they would arrive too late. The rogue Imperial ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Sol system. Commander Zathrek commanded the strike force from his dreadnought. His orders were clear: destroy the human homeworld's orbital facilities, cripple their shipyards, eliminate their military capability. All ships, weapons hot. Target the largest orbital platforms. "On my mark, sir," his sensor officer shouted. "Multiple contacts. Hundreds of them." The display lit up with ship signatures. Human warships were converging from all directions, not just the 500 they had detected before. Thousands. They had been hidden, waiting, scattered throughout the system in stealth mode. "How did we not see them?" Zathrek demanded. "Their stealth technology, sir. They were running silent. They only activated when we arrived." Zathrek realized the trap. The humans had known. Somehow they had known the attack was coming and had prepared. A transmission came through. It was Captain Chen, but now she wore a military uniform, not the casual explorer's outfit. "Commander Zathrek of the Imperial Navy. You have entered Sol's system with hostile intent. We're giving you one chance to stand down, power down your weapons, and accept escort back to Imperial space." Zathrek laughed. "You think you can threaten us? We are the Valorian Empire. We have conquered 56 species. And we're number 57 if you keep making bad decisions," Chen replied. Her voice was ice. "Commander, look at your tactical display." "Really look at it," Zathrek did. His blood ran cold. The human ships had formed a perfect sphere around his strike force. Every angle was covered. Every escape route was blocked. And the weapon signatures his sensors were picking up were far more advanced than expected. "Last chance, Commander. Stand down." Pride and training warred with survival instinct. Zathrek had been a warrior his entire life. He had never retreated, but he was also smart enough to recognize a losing battle. "All ships, stand down. Power down weapon systems." Within minutes, human ships had surrounded each Imperial vessel. Tractor beams locked on, not to destroy but to contain. It was a flawlessly executed capture operation. Chen's face reappeared on screen. "Good choice, Commander. Your crew will be treated well. We'll hold you here until Admiral Kethrax arrives." Kethrax's fleet arrived 3 hours later. He immediately contacted Chen. "Captain, I apologize for this attack. These ships acted without authorization." "We know, Admiral. We've been monitoring your communications, remember? We knew about the coup attempt before the ships even launched. Then why didn't you destroy them?" Chen's expression softened. "Because we're not at war, Admiral. Your empire is going through internal conflict. These crews were following orders they believed were legitimate. We're not going to kill people for being caught in the middle of your political crisis." Kethrax felt something he rarely experienced: shame. The humans had been attacked by Imperial forces and had responded with restraint and compassion. "What will you do with them?" he asked. "Return them to you once things settle down. They'll need some education about human capabilities, but no harm will come to them. We believe in second chances." Over the next week, events moved rapidly. General Cormac attempted to seize control of the capital. But his support crumbled when news spread of the failed attack on Sol. The war faction had promised a quick victory. Instead, they had been captured without a single shot fired. The High Council called an emergency session. All 7 members were present. Councillor Velthara spoke first. The humans have demonstrated both their strength and their restraint. They could have destroyed our attack force. They chose mercy instead. I move that we formally establish diplomatic relations with humanity. I second the motion, another councillor said quickly. Even Mordax, who had been skeptical, nodded slowly. The Admiral's report from Earth has been distributed. I have read it thoroughly. I believe we have been stagnant for too long. The humans represent an opportunity for the Empire to grow again, to innovate, to remember what made us great in the first place. The vote was unanimous. 6 weeks later, the first joint Valorian human exploration vessel prepared for launch. It was a hybrid design, combining Imperial durability with human innovation. The crew was mixed, 30 Valorians and 30 humans learning to work together. Admiral Kethrax stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, watching the ship's final preparations. Velmara and Captain Chen joined him. What will you call it? Velmara asked. Chen smiled. The crew voted. They're calling it the Pioneer. Appropriate, Kethrax said. It's pioneering a new era. Speaking of which, Chen said, we've been analyzing some of the data your scientists shared. Your power generation technology is fascinating, much more stable than ours, and your shield technology could really help with some of our deep space exploration challenges. And your propulsion technology and materials science will revolutionize Imperial ship design, Velmara added. This collaboration will benefit both our peoples. They watched in silence as the Pioneer's engines powered up. The ship was heading for a region of space neither civilization had explored. Valorian experience and human innovation, working together. You know, Kethrax said quietly. A year ago, if someone had told me the Empire would be partnering with a species we'd never heard of, I would have called them insane. And if someone had told me we'd be working with an empire that spans 10,000 systems, I would have been excited, Chen replied. That's the difference between us, Admiral. You saw threat. We saw opportunity. We both learned, Velmara said. You learned that not every new species is an enemy. We learned that our stagnation was self-imposed. And humans learned that there are civilizations out here with thousands of cycles of accumulated knowledge. True, Chen admitted. Though between you and me, some of that knowledge is outdated. Your medical technology still uses 4th-generation cellular scanners. We're on Generation 9 now. And your civilian ship safety protocols are dangerously lax, Kethrax countered. We've seen your accident reports, Chen laughed. Fair point. We do take more risks than we probably should. That's what makes you human, Velmara said. And that's what makes this partnership work. We balance each other. The Pioneer began to move, its hybrid engines glowing with power. It accelerated smoothly, faster than any pure Imperial ship could manage, but with the stability of Imperial engineering. Admiral, Chen said, we've detected 17 other civilizations in this galaxy so far. Some more advanced than either of us in certain areas, some less so. The galaxy is much more diverse than either of our civilizations realized. And humanity is contacting all of them? Kethrax asked. Where possible, though we're being more careful now. You taught us that. Not every first contact should be as dramatic as ours was. Dramatic, Kethrax repeated dryly. You infiltrated our most secure facilities and appeared before our largest fleet. I'd call that more than dramatic. It worked, didn't it? We got your attention. You certainly did. A human aide approached Chen with a data pad. She read it quickly, then smiled. Admiral, I have news. The first joint research station is approved. It'll be located at Threshold Gate. Human scientists and Valorian researchers working together. They're calling it the Gateway Institute.